think comfort is something that we are just, that we're just connected to. We don't like, I don't like to be uncomfortable. And I certainly, no matter what, I don't think I'd want to be uncomfortable all the time. But I'm kind of realizing that you have to be uncomfortable at least some of the time in order to possibly grow. Now, by the way, can you guys hear me okay? Somebody just said they can't hear me, and I'm kind of concerned about that. Let me know if you can hear me. Give me a quick yes if you're able to hear me okay, because I don't know if I'm coming through all right. All right. Okay. So it looks like you guys can hear me okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to talk to you guys about about breaking out of comfort zones and kind of give you some psychology on this and why this is really important when it comes to economics. We've already discussed extensively in financial consciousness training why your comfort zone or why our habits betray us and why we are stuck in culture that is not healthy economic culture, why the so-called culture that we love the most is the one that keeps us constrained the most, and ultimately the belief and the understanding is that we have to break out of this culture in order to get where we want to get to, right? The culture tells you to be a renter and to be a spender and to be an employee, and ultimately your goal when it comes to wealth is you want to do the opposite things. You want to also be a producer. You also want to be an investor. You also want to be a business owner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out a little bit about sort of economic culture and sort of help you understand why people have a fear of going out of their comfort zone. And this affects Black folks when it comes to our economics, largely because studies show that Black people are afraid to start businesses. We are more afraid than other people when it comes to starting companies. We don't start businesses like everybody else because we have this massive fear of failure that really, really permeates throughout our culture and throughout our community. And where does that come from? Well, it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from trauma. Lots of trauma, slavery, lots of things that we've gone through. Remember that you had grandparents, and the studies show that trauma can be inherited. Y'all seen that, right? That trauma can literally live in your DNA and be passed on from one generation to the next. So a lot of the trauma, you had grandparents who literally could die just by trying something new, just by being creative, just by being innovative, just by being bold or courageous, or any of the things that you're supposed to do in order to be successful in the world. Your grandparents could die for that. There were lots of Black people that were lynched for starting successful businesses. There were Black people who were killed for little things like looking a white person in the eye. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that in his books, Powernomics and Black Labor, White Wealth. We covered that in our Powernomics training that we do every Wednesday night, which, by the way, you can join us if you go to blackkeystogreatness.com, or you can text the word greatness to 87948, and I'll invite you. And so there's a history of this. And so what this does is this shows up in our investing behavior. It shows up in our economic behavior. The reason that we're quick to align with successful businesses already owned and created by white people is because we don't really necessarily see ourselves as the founders and the creators of businesses that can be owned and controlled by Black people. We don't see ourselves as the innovators of society. We don't see ourselves as the people who can actually build and develop the things that are going to make America great and make our community great and build wealth for our families. We see ourselves as people who should play it safe and connect to something that's already in existence, something that's already real. It takes a lot of courage and risk taking to innovate or to develop something new that does not exist. And we don't necessarily have a lot of that because of what we've gone through. Now, another reason that people have a hard time stepping out of their comfort zone can relate to a loss of control. When you go into a new environment, you don't know that environment. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know what the new situation is going to look like. And that loss of control can be very frightening for many of us. Also, social pressure. There's a lot of pressure to be whatever you were from the time you were born. Let me know if you know what I'm talking about. When you go to to your family and you say, "I want to be an investor. I want to be an innovator. I want to start a business." A lot of people will just look at you like you're crazy. Like they'll literally just say, "What are you doing? Why would you quit that good job? What's wrong with you? This isn't going to work." And it's very difficult, especially when you have people that don't understand risk taking and can't value that. They don't understand the victory that comes with simply trying. They don't understand that when you go out there, even even if you don't succeed, you have succeeded because you busted out of the comfort zone and you gave yourself a chance. You gave yourself a chance where there was no chance. You gave yourself a possibility where there was no possibility. They don't see it that way. The way they see it is that Negro tried and he failed, and that's why he's stupid and he should have just did what the rest of us did, which is sit there and do absolutely nothing and guarantee yourself nothing more than a life of mediocrity or sub mediocrity, a life of continued oppression and consistent voluntary incarceration in whatever life or existence that you already have. That's a very sad way to live. That's a very sad state of existence. Now, the other reason that people may not pursue new things is because they just you just don't know the rules. You don't know what's gonna you don't know this new world that you're walking into, right? So it's unfamiliar and it can be complex. You're gonna stumble. You're gonna go into new spaces and you're not gonna get that certainty of knowing what's going on and what you're doing and everything else. You're gonna have to go through that process where you're climbing the hill of learning. You have to go up the learning curve, and it kind of sucks because you feel vulnerable and perhaps inferior because you don't understand what's going on. So it does humble you. And so one of the things I would say is that one tip I would give is to voluntarily humble yourself, to just accept the idea that God is not through with you yet. You are a growing, evolving creature, and that yes, you're gonna go in a new space, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna learn, and you're gonna start from the bottom. And it's okay to do that. I had to do that to become an entrepreneur. When I was already a professor, and I think about this, right? I'm already in the top 1% of the top 1% of financial thinkers on the planet at the age of 31. I was already there. I busted my butt. I was in school all through my 20s. I was on top of the world. I was the only African American on the planet, male or female, to get a PhD in finance during the year 2002. That year, there was no one else on earth that looked like me who had that degree. So I was creme de la creme. I had won the Super Bowl. I just won the Heisman Trophy or something. That's how I felt